Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Um, Clearly I'm flowing. Clearly I've had a few ideas because anyways, let's get into the video. Um, I always like to be intentional and transparent in the beginning of my videos and state the fact that I'm a little nervy. I feel put on the spot a little bit, even though I put my own self on the spot because I sat down to record this video. But I digress. If you saw the title, the lesson wasn't the point, embodying it was. And 2025 was a very interesting year for me. I had a lot of trials and tribulations and a lot of tests, and every year there's a lesson. And I actually, in 2021, I started a list. And I wrote down what the theme of my year was. So, obviously, there's like other things I learned throughout the years, but every year there's a theme. And all of my experiences usually trace back to that theme. Most of the time, I learn what the lesson is for the upcoming year by the end of the year before it, if that makes sense. And I always focus so much on the lesson that I forget there's so many other moving parts to that whole process. And I never had a hard time with understanding or learning the lesson. It was learning to stay present enough to embody what I learned, to embody the wisdom that I had gained. And I think personally, like, I know that from a young age, have been a very like self-aware person, and 2021 was the year that kind of struck a different type of awareness for me. I saw the world more clearly. I wasn't looking through the rose-colored goggles. I started to see reality, and not just my reality or the lens that I was looking through, but I would say the truth. I always focus so hardcore on, like, all right, what am I learning from these lessons so I could just quickly move through it and get over it, only to realize that that wasn't the end. But what I also didn't realize until, I want to say, maybe this 2025, I didn't realize the amount of patience I needed for the most important part of the process, and that's embodying the wisdom that I had learned that year, or the lesson that I had learned that year. And it's like being smart and wise are two different things. You smart is having the knowledge and knowing the thing, and being wise is to act upon what you know and embodying that. And I want to say, like, this, I mean, it started a little bit in 2024, but 2025 was really a year of me truly not just saying that this is the type of woman I want to become. These are the type of values and virtues that I would like to hold as this woman. This is who I'm becoming, or who I am. I had to stop imagining what it would be like for me to be her and become her. And, like, I know, like, social media is like, there's so many, like, oh, become her or become him, but it's a lot of words. It's never, well, how do you actually do this? And most of us may learn the lesson, and like me, I learned the lesson, but I never stayed present enough. I never stayed long enough. I never sat still enough to actually allow what I had learned to transform me, to allow myself to embody what it was that I had started to understand. And again, I don't have the list with me right now, so I don't remember everything, but what I also understood was that on top of the required patience with myself that was needed to even allow my inner world to be transformed, I had to be tested. And I no longer look at tests as like such a negative thing. Um, I know that you can have tests and they become unpleasant experiences because a lot of the time pain and misery and un- being uncomfortable is what pushes us forward. And I mean, that may sound cliche, but it's the truth, at least for me. At least for my life, it has been the truth because I have had my own struggles and experiences that would break so many people. But the one thing that I truly learned about myself this year that I finally accepted was that no matter what, the fact that I get up every single day, the fact that I can continue to move forward and to say I still want more for myself, I still want better for myself. Baby, the fact that I even continue to push lets me know that the pain, the trials, the tests, whatever, they weren't for no reason. And I needed them. And sometimes people happen to be the test, but I believe that everybody can't be great. Everybody can't be healthy. Everybody can't be what we see as good. I think that we need the unhealthy. We need the bad people. Why? Because they show us what not to do. And sometimes they are the catalysts in our lives that continue to push us toward the people that we are supposed to be, and they continue to push us down the path that we are meant to go down. I truly genuinely believe that. And back to, the part of embodying these lessons is like, okay, great. I understand that I learned the lesson. I understand now that I have to practice it, but how is it that I'm supposed to put this into practice? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. And I finally accepted that space that you get in and everything's like really quiet and you feel really stagnant and you feel like nothing's working. You learn the lesson, but you're not moving. You learn the lesson, but the good things that you want to happen for you are not happening. And I had to come back home to myself. 2025 was the year of coming home to myself. I started insourcing and not outsourcing. And I don't know if that's a word, but guess what? It's a word today because I thought about that and I said, oh, wait a minute. That's a little catchy. I like that. Anyways, insourcing, not outsourcing. And what I mean by that is I'm not looking for validation outside of myself. That's great. But I realize that when I get praise outside of myself, it's only a temporary feeling. And then I go back to the same unhappiness within myself, the same despair that I felt like I was in. And I realized it's because the whole time my body was trying to tell me to come home. And once I did, I learned that so much more about what I actually needed to do to embody the lesson that I had learned. I couldn't trust myself if I was too busy looking for everyone else, my mom, my significant other, my friends, YouTube, social media, to give me the answers when I had the answers right here all along. I couldn't rely on looking for safety from everybody else if I was not safe within myself. I've had, and a lot of women, men, a lot of us have had experiences where we've trusted someone and they've shown us that we cannot trust them. A lot of the times we attach our trust to other people, and so when we lose trust in them, we lose trust in ourselves. And in relationships, friendships, any parent-child relationships, we end up giving so much that we abandon ourselves and shrink ourselves, or don't actually put ourselves first or respect ourselves in the way that we should. And then we end up not trusting our own decisions and our own thoughts. And for me, that continuous self-abandonment created this inner voice, this inner critic. And boy, she used to yell at me all the time. She used to make me cry. She was just so mean to me. And I didn't want it anymore. I wanted to let her go. And when I came back home to myself, she said that my inner child, actually, that's what I'm referring to. She told me that we weren't friends anymore, that she didn't trust me, and that even when the adult version of myself wanted to act one way, I didn't, because she was in control. Fear was in control. That was the biggest thing, honestly. And she doubted herself so much. She did not believe in herself as much as I thought she did. And I learned to become my own best friend. I learned to become my own best friend by being consistent with myself, by showing up for myself consistently. Instead of looking for validation from other people, I ask myself questions. Why are you looking for validation? What kind of validation do you need? And can you give this to yourself? I answered those questions, and I started giving back to myself. I started showing up for myself consistently. I would start routines and then go off and do something different days later. And that would stop me from staying consistent, because I didn't trust myself enough to do it anyways. I was like, oh, well, you're going to stop in a few days anyways. And once I started overriding that with my action, because at the end of the day, thoughts, they're always there. But it's being present with myself and understanding that I can have a thought. I can say, well, I don't want to do this right now, and still do it anyways. Because over time, I started to trust myself enough to show up even when it was hard. Because how can I show up for anybody else, or how can anybody show up for me if I can't even show up for myself? And that's when staying in this space, staying in the space of learning how to embody what the lesson was, became the most important part of the process. Because that is where the growth happened. That is where I'm getting chills talking about it. That is where the internal shift happened for me. The tests and the trials, that is where I needed interruption. That is where I needed to stay strong and to say, okay, this was the lesson. I'm experiencing the lesson right now. So I do not have to learn this lesson again. So I can actually say that I understand what the lesson is. We're going to put a stop to this right now. There's so many examples. Like, I don't necessarily want to go into everything, but I will say that something as simple as getting up and doing my same skincare routine every single day. Every single day. And I made it simple. That was a big thing. I make things so complicated. I think as women, we tend to do that. I'm not saying every woman's doing that, but me particularly. And other women I know we be complicating things because sometimes we be so zoomed in on the details, and you zoom out a little bit and you realize how simple it can actually be. I think another thing was, even though I was so used to eating so much sugar, and like when I was sad, like I would eat what I craved that was comfort food. And I'm not going to say that's necessarily wrong, but I had to get myself out of that cycle where I was going to keep, my face was going to keep breaking out, and the routine I was doing was not going to work. And I just had to ultimately like take better care of myself in the ways that I knew were the most important to me, and not overdoing it, just little steps, step by step. And that's probably like a big thing to make things simple, is just taking things one step at a time. I know it's easier said than done. Boy, tell me about it. But it's all right. I'm going to walk down stair 1. And even though life feels uncertain to me, and I would like to know what the future has ahead of me so I know what I'm walking into, I'm going to trust myself, and I'm going to trust in general that I don't always have all the answers, and I don't know what's lying ahead of me. But I would like to break the cycle, so we're going to start here. And at this point, I've become a true friend to myself. I have become someone that I truly admire. And I'm getting chills saying this because it makes me feel so good to say this about myself. Because I didn't realize how much respect I was going to have for myself by sitting in this space, sitting in the quiet, sitting in what felt like stagnation, but it really wasn't. It was just rest. After I learned the lesson, it was time to rest, to sit still, to allow the lesson to provide me with experiences to embody what it was that I learned. I know I've used that word like 50 times, but it's like that's the word of the day. That is the word of the month, the word of the year, the word of the week right now. And I think a big thing that I haven't really spoken on when it comes to embodying is presence. And even in the littlest ways, like I notice when I'm getting upset, instead of trying to brush off the fact that I'm angry or sad or upset in the moment, it's like, okay, yes, I'm upset right now. What do I feel? My heart is beating really fast. My throat is closing up a little bit. My chest is tightening. I paid attention to all those things and I stayed present in that. And I meditated every morning. I've been meditating literally every day for the past 2 years. For the past 2 years, I would say I've been meditating every single day. Maybe a year and a half, maybe not 2 years. Before that I was doing it on and off, but it's still until I started doing that every single day and just being intentional with myself, intentional with my time, intentional with my actions and my behavior, like that changed so much for me. I think that with all that being said, like me shifting, admiring myself, respecting myself, really truly becoming my own best friend, there was so much joy even in the unpleasant moments. Even when I was going through the tests. No. Even when I was going through the tests, I would smile. It made me so happy. It really did, because the more present you are, the less that you focus on things that don't actually matter. And time and space became my medicine, truly. And that's what I learned in presence. And I'm honoring the season that asked me to stay. Creativity, presence, and joy returned when I was safe within myself. I worried less. I gained more clarity. And I trusted over urgency. And that's all I have for this video. I hope you all truly enjoyed listening. I'm flowing, and I'm no longer trying to force myself to make short videos, because boy do I like to talk, okay? So I really truly hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope you got something from it. I know I did, and it feels great to be here in this space. Peace, love, and light.